You're having a conversation in English. Someone asks you a simple question, and in your head, silence. Not because you don't know the answer, but because your brain is frantically translating word by word from your native language. By the time you've translated the sentence, the conversation has moved on. You feel slow, you feel frustrated.
I remember this so clearly. I was learning Portuguese, and I was at a cafe in Lisbon. The barista asked me something simple. I knew all the words, but I was translating from English to Portuguese in my head, word by word. By the time I responded, she looked confused because the conversation had already moved to the next topic. I felt like my brain was a slow computer, buffering every sentence.
That's exactly what our listeners are experiencing right now. And here's what I want you to know. This is the single biggest barrier between you and fluent, natural English.
Today, we're teaching you a simple 3-level system to stop translating and start thinking directly in English, even if you're still a beginner.
I'm Olivia.
And I'm Paul.
Welcome to English Together.
Okay, so Paul, let's be honest with our listeners. When you're learning English, translating feels safe, right? It feels like the only way to make sure you're saying the right thing.
Absolutely, and that's why so many learners get stuck in this pattern for years. But here's the problem. When you translate word by word, 3 things happen. First, you're slow. You can't keep up with natural conversation speed. Second, you make grammar mistakes because you're using the word order from your native language, not English. And third, you sound unnatural because some ideas just don't translate directly.
Right, like if you're translating an idiom literally. I had a student from Spain who wanted to say she was very happy about something. In Spanish, she would say, estoy que me salgo, which literally translates to, I am that I leave myself. She said that in English, and people were so confused because the conversation had already moved to the next topic.
Exactly. The English way to say that is just, I'm over the moon or I'm thrilled. But if you're translating word by word, you'd never get there.
So how do we fix this? Because I think our listeners are thinking, okay, I understand the problem, but if I don't translate, how do I even form a sentence?
Great question. And this is where our system comes in. We call it the 3-level English brain method. It's 3 progressive levels that take you from beginner translation mode to thinking naturally in English. And the keyword is progressive. You don't have to master all 3 levels at once.
Tell us about the levels.
Level 1 is think in words. This is where you stop translating individual words and start associating English words directly with images or feelings. Level 2 is think in chunks. You learn common phrases as complete units, not word by word. And level 3 is think in sentences, where you're forming full thoughts directly in English without any translation. Okay, I love this because it feels achievable. You're not asking someone who's been translating for years to suddenly think in full English sentences tomorrow.
Exactly. Let's start with level 1. Think in words. Here's the technique. When you learn a new English word, don't attach it to the word in your native language. Attach it to an image, a feeling, or an action.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's say you're learning the word apple. Most beginners do this. They see the word apple, translate it to their language, let's say manzana in Spanish or pomme in French, and then think of the fruit. But there's an extra step there. Instead, when you see the word apple, picture a red apple in your mind. See it. Imagine biting into it. Skip the translation.
So you're creating a direct connection between the English word and the actual thing.
Yes, this is called direct association, and it works for actions too. When you learn the word run, don't translate it. Picture someone running. Feel the movement. Your brain will start to connect run with the action, not with the word in your language.
Okay, but I imagine some listeners are thinking, that works for simple words like apple or run. But what about abstract words like freedom or responsibility?
Good point. For abstract words, you can associate them with feelings or specific memories. When you hear freedom, maybe you picture a bird flying, or you remember a moment when you felt free. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be something in your mind that's not a translation.
I love that. So level 1 is about building your vocabulary without the translation middleman.
Exactly. And here's a practical exercise you can do today. Label things in your house with English words. Put a sticky note that says door on your door. Mirror on your mirror. Every time you see it, say the English word out loud and look at the object. Don't translate, Just see the object and say the word.
That's such a simple exercise, but I bet it makes a huge difference.
It does. We've taught over 50,000 English learners, and the ones who practice direct association always tell us they feel faster and more natural within just a few weeks.
Okay, so that's level 1. What about level 2? Think in chunks.
Level 2 is where things get really interesting. Here's the idea. In English, we don't actually speak word by word. We speak in chunks, groups of words that go together as a unit. And if you learn these chunks as complete phrases, you don't have to build the sentence from scratch every time.
Can you give us some examples of chunks?
Sure. Think about how you greet someone. You don't think, how are you, word by word. You learn how are you as one chunk. It's automatic. Other examples, I'm on my way. Let me know. It depends. I can't wait. These are chunks. You learn them as units and you use them as units.
So instead of translating dime from Spanish to tell me and then adding when you arrive, you just learn the chunk, let me know when you get there.
Exactly. And here's why this is so powerful. When you learn chunks, you also learn grammar automatically. You don't have to think about word order because the chunk is already correct.
Oh, that's brilliant. So you're learning grammar without studying grammar.
Yes, and this is how native speakers actually learn too. Children don't learn grammar rules first, they learn chunks, and the grammar comes naturally.
So what are the most useful chunks for beginners to learn?
I'd start with everyday conversational chunks. Here are some essentials. I'd like to, for requests. Could you please, for polite questions. I'm not sure, when you don't know. That makes sense, to show understanding. By the way, to change topics. It's up to you, when someone else should decide.
Those are so useful. I feel like if you know just those 6 chunks, you can handle a lot of basic conversations.
Absolutely. And here's the key. Don't break them apart. Don't think I would like to. Just think of the whole phrase as one piece. Practice saying the chunk out loud over and over until it becomes automatic.
Okay, I want to share a mistake I made with chunks when I was learning French. I knew the English chunk, I'm looking forward to it. In French, it's j'ai hâte. But I didn't learn it as a chunk. I learned j'ai means I have and hâte means haste. So I kept trying to translate it literally and got so confused. If I just learned j'ai hâte as one chunk, meaning I'm excited about it, I would have saved myself so much frustration.
Yes, that's a perfect example. Translation makes chunks complicated, but if you learn them as units, they're simple.
Okay, we've covered level 1, think in words, and level 2, think in chunks. Now let's talk about the big one. Level 3, think in sentences.
Right. This is the ultimate goal, forming complete thoughts in English without translating. And I know this sounds intimidating, but here's the secret. You've actually been preparing for this with levels 1 and 2.
How so?
Because once you know words directly and you know chunks automatically, forming sentences in English becomes much easier. You're not translating individual words, you're combining chunks.
Oh, I see. So instead of thinking, I need to tell him that I will arrive late, translating word by word, you're thinking in chunks like, I need to let him know I'll be late.
Exactly. You're building with blocks you already know, not translating from scratch.
That makes it feel so much more achievable.
It is. And here's a technique to practice level 3. Narrate your life in English. This is one of the most powerful exercises you can do, and you can do it alone. You don't need a conversation partner.
What do you mean by narrate your life?
I mean, describe what you're doing as you're doing it out loud in English. For example, right now, I could say, I'm sitting at a desk. I'm talking to Olivia. I'm explaining an English technique. Simple sentences, present tense. Just describe what's happening around you.
Oh, so you're practicing thinking in English in real time.
Yes, and here's why this works. You're not translating because you're reacting to what's happening right now. Your brain doesn't have time to translate. It just has to produce English.
I love this. So like right now, I could say, I'm holding a pen, I'm nodding my head, I'm learning something new.
Perfect. And the more you do this, the more automatic it becomes. Start with simple actions. I'm making coffee. I'm opening the door. I'm checking my phone. Then, as you get more comfortable, add feelings or reasons. I'm making coffee because I'm tired. I'm checking my phone to see if she replied.
Okay, pause for 1 second. We've just given you 3 levels and some really powerful techniques, but here's the thing. You need to actually practice this out loud or it won't become automatic in real conversations.
So, right now, I want you to narrate one simple action you're doing right now. Say it in English, out loud.
For example, you could say, I'm listening to a podcast, or I'm sitting on a couch, or I'm taking notes. Go ahead, say it out loud right now, even if you're alone. We'll wait. Did you do it? If you said it out loud, you're already ahead of 90% of learners. That's how you build the thinking in English habit.
Exactly, because the goal isn't perfection, it's practice.
Okay, so we've talked about narrating your life. What are some other ways to practice thinking in sentences?
Another great technique is to practice your emotional reactions in English. This is so important because emotions are immediate. You don't have time to translate them. So when you feel something, name it in English immediately.
Like, if you're hungry, instead of thinking the word in your native language and translating to I'm hungry, you just think I'm hungry.
Yes, or if you're annoyed, think this is frustrating. If you're happy, think I'm so glad. The key is to make it a habit. Every time you feel something, name it in English immediately.
I actually started doing this when I was learning Spanish, and it made such a difference. I would stub my toe and think, ay, me duele. Instead of thinking in English first, it felt so natural.
That's it. You're rewiring your brain to respond in the target language first.
Now, I want to talk about something important. The mistakes you'll make when you're learning to think in English.
Oh, yes. Let's be clear. When you stop translating, you will make mistakes. You'll use the wrong word, you'll mess up grammar, and that's okay.
Actually, it's more than okay. It's necessary.
Exactly. Here's the truth. Accurate, slow English with translation will never become fluent English. But messy, imperfect English without translation can become fluent over time.
I love that. Can you say that again?
Accurate, slow English with translation will never become fluent. But messy, imperfect English without translation can become fluent over time.
So, it's better to make mistakes while thinking in English than to be perfect while translating.
Yes, because mistakes are part of the learning process. And here's what we tell our students. Confident learners make more mistakes than shy learners. Why? Because they're actually using the language.
That's so important for our listeners to hear. There's no shame in making mistakes when you're thinking in English.
None. In fact, every mistake is a sign that you're challenging yourself.
Okay, so let's talk about some common mistakes learners make when they stop translating, so our listeners know what to expect.
Good idea. One big mistake is using word order from your native language. For example, in many languages, you might say I, it, like instead of I like it, or beautiful, very instead of very beautiful.
Right, because different languages have different grammar structures.
Exactly. And Spanish adjectives often come after the noun. Coche rojo is car red, but in English, it's red car. So if you're translating structure, you'll make mistakes.
But if you're learning chunks, like red car, you learn the correct order automatically.
Yes, that's why level 2 thinking in chunks is so important.
Another mistake I see beginners make is trying to think in English with complex sentences before they're ready.
Oh, absolutely. If you're still at level 1 or level 2, don't try to form complicated sentences in your head. Start simple. One subject, one verb, one object. I like coffee. She works here. They left early. Keep it simple until it's automatic.
And then you can add complexity later.
Exactly. Fluency is built on simple sentences first.
Okay, I think we need to address one more thing. What if you get stuck? What if you're trying to think in English and you just don't know the word?
Such a good question. Here's what you do. Don't switch back to translation. Instead, describe the word in English using words you already know.
Can you give an example?
Sure, let's say you don't know the word ladder. Instead of thinking, what's the word for escalera in English, you say the thing you climb to reach high places. You're staying in English. You're using the words you know.
And that's actually a really useful communication skill, too.
Yes, native speakers do this all the time when they can't remember a word. They describe it.
Okay, so before we recap everything, I want to mention something important. In our community of over 50,000 English learners, we've noticed one thing that all successful learners have in common. They practice thinking in English every single day, even if it's just for 5 minutes.
That's so true. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency.
Right. Even if you just narrate your morning coffee routine in English every day, that's enough to start rewiring your brain.
Absolutely. Okay, let's do a full recap of the 3-level English brain method.
Yes, let's go through each level and the key techniques.
Level 1, think in words. This is where you stop translating individual words. Instead, you create direct associations. When you learn a new word, connect it to an image, feeling, or action, not to the word in your native language. Label objects in your house with English words and say them out loud without translating. Practice this with simple, everyday vocabulary first.
Level 2, think in chunks. This is where you learn common phrases as complete units. Learn phrases like, how are you? Let me know. I'd like to, by the way, as single chunks. Don't break them apart word by word. Practice saying chunks out loud until they're automatic. This teaches you correct grammar naturally without studying rules.
And level 3, think in sentences. This is where you form full thoughts directly in English. Narrate your life. Describe what you're doing as you're doing it out loud, in simple English. Practice your emotional reactions in English. When you feel something, name it immediately in English. Start with simple sentences: subject, verb, object. If you don't know a word, describe it using words you already know. Stay in English.
And remember, you will make mistakes. That's not a sign of failure. It's a sign you're learning.
Exactly. Messy English without translation will become fluent. Perfect English with translation will stay slow.
So here's your homework this week. Pick one level to focus on. If you're a beginner, start with level 1. Label 5 objects in your house and practice direct association. If you're intermediate, try level 3. Narrate your morning routine in English out loud for just 5 minutes every day.
And be patient with yourself. This is a process. Your brain has been translating for years. It will take time to build the new habit.
But it will happen. And when it does, you'll feel the difference immediately.
All right, we covered so much today, and we are really proud of you for sticking with us and challenging yourself to think differently.
If this lesson helped you, please give it a like right now. It helps other English learners find this lesson and stop the translation trap.
And if you haven't already, subscribe to English Together. We post a new practical English lesson every week to help you build real confidence and fluency.
Okay, now here's our question for you. Have you ever had a funny or awkward moment because you translated something literally into English?
Maybe you translated an idiom word by word and people looked at you like you were speaking alien language. Or maybe you used the wrong word order and accidentally said something hilarious.
I told you about my slow translation disaster in Lisbon, and Olivia shared her I leave myself moment from her Spanish student.
Now it's your turn. Tell us your story in the comments. We read every single one and will reply to as many as we can. Plus, your story will help other learners feel less alone in this struggle.
Because here's the truth. Every single English learner goes through this. You're not behind. You're not slow. You're just in the process, and that process gets easier every single day.
So keep practicing the 3-level method. Start small, be patient, and remember, thinking in English isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to stop translating and try something new.
Thanks so much for learning with us today.
We'll see you next week with another lesson.
Until then, keep practicing.
Bye, everyone.